is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast. We have a very special guest on the show today. I have Folasade Ayegubusi. Folasade, excited to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, excited to have you on and hear about all the awesome things you're doing. We're obviously live here at Intelligent Office, so we get really fun treat to actually meet in person and do this interview, which I'm incredibly grateful for. So I guess to kind of kick everything off, I wanted to hear a little bit more about you, your story. We'll let you get started with all the awesome work you're doing.
Well, thank you so much again for having me. And yes, finally getting to meet you in person. Well, I feel like my story is a bit typical now when I talk about it. It's because I have that typical grew up in the hood, underserved type of background, but it actually really was that. So my dad's Nigerian, my mom's Black American, and my dad's an accountant, so I'm second generation.
Nice.
And so he was servicing clients and I would intern with him. And just the conversations was just totally different. When me and my mom would go and stand in the line to file her taxes via H&R Block, everybody's like, oh yeah, I'm your $5,000 bag. I'm getting 5,000. I'm going to do this. You know, or if they didn't get a refund, what is going on? They expected it. It's just a totally different conversation. And so I really started to notice that, oh my goodness, we were talking about getting money back, refunds, and being taken advantage of.
Right.
And their community was talking about, same black people, talking about rental properties. Oh, I owe, but it's okay. I got to pay taxes anyway. Investments and stocks. The conversations was just totally different.
Right.
And during that time, me and my mom was going through a lot of financial issues. She ended up having to leave her government job. So at home, I was struggling in the hood, poor, barely can even eat. And then I can see these people getting refunds or owing 20, 30,000. So that intrigued me. And then I was like, okay, you know what? The only way that I think my mom could have prevented us from being in this financial state is by her being more financially literate. And being more open to investments and things like that, and having more of a savings fund, a sink fund, and just more financially sound.
Right.
And so at that point, I was 16. I had to end up walking away from Duke Ellington because we couldn't afford to maintain a lifestyle that I had to go there.
The school, right?
Yeah. And then I just shifted everything to just focus on accounting. And from that point forward, I ended up saying, you know what? Everything I learned from them, I'm going to bring back to the community. And then from there, I just been an accountant. I've been since I was 17. Didn't have the credentials then, but I knew that was what I was going to do at that point. So that's kind of my background. And then ever since then, I went and got my bachelor's in accounting, my master's in accounting, and then my enrolled agent's license to represent clients against the IRS and things like that. And it's just been an exciting, unpredictable journey, and to be honest.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I appreciate you sharing that with us, because I think so many times I always say it's really great to hear what somebody does, but I think it's even more important to hear why they do it, and to hear your journey, and not even that you're doing it just sometimes for the clients that are in front of you, it's for their families, it's for the community. Just all those things start to pour out of, your why. And I can hear that so strongly. So I love that, you kind of took the bull by the reins and you started to blaze that trail and make people more aware of their finances. Because a lot of times I think if you grow up, especially in underserved communities, you don't always know all the things that you want to know or should know. And I love that you're helping to make sure that knowledge gets spread around and people know about it.
Yes. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I wanted to drill down a little bit more, hear a little bit more on how you're working with your clients. Could you take us through a little bit more on what that looks like, and how you're serving the clients you work with?
That's an amazing question. So what it looked like for me is that one thing I noticed when I can't even take credit, when God started to really develop and hone into my purpose, what he started to do was expose the different avenues that I can utilize to really help our community. And the common thread was taxes. All of us, regardless if we hate IRS, Uncle Sam, or whatever the case may be, we all have to file a tax return at some time.
Right.
And so I started to realize with their tax return, I can teach them about money. I can teach them how to save. I can teach them how to invest. I can teach them on how to manage their money, how to have proper record keeping and organizational skills, and then also show them the pros of them having all of those skills and how it will then impact their future generations. And so what he did was to show me that, dang, just through their W-2, I can help them invest into their retirement account. Oh my goodness. Now, if they were to go and start a business, in addition to them having a retirement account, I can now have them direct them to have health insurance through the business so they can get right off, have their own health insurance, and then teach them how to hire their child. So then so it just started to just develop over time. And so I use my clients' tax returns as the foundation to really help them become financially literate. But in addition to that, to help them build, and I hate to say it in this time that we're in, because this generational wealth has been used to scam people today, but I really use their tax returns to help them build generational wealth.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I love that you found kind of like that common element, that tax return, and how powerful that is, because I think, when you're going in at the end of the year, you're not sure of like where you are financially, what you should do or shouldn't do. But that is a phenomenal time to be able to talk about, oh, have you considered doing this? Have you considered doing that? Did you know you could hire your child or your son or your daughter? Did you know that you could be putting some money away for? Just all these conversations start to happen. So I love that, again, something that's happening consistently for everybody. You're able to help arm them as an opportunity to be more informed and be able to make better choices for the next year after that, and year after that, to build that generational wealth.
Yes. And it's exciting. And then when people start okay, so every year I feel like I have a theme. 3 years ago, our theme was everybody that had a business. I went on ahead and set up their bookkeeping account, and I did it for free. I use Wave apps. So every time a new entrepreneur would come, I would have my team go set up Wave apps for them, force them to set up their bank account. So at the minimum, they had their stuff tracked.
Right.
This year, my theme was retirement accounts. Okay. So everybody I asked, do you have a retirement account? And I really have to ask because it showed on their W-2s if it's through their employer. Right. But the ones that didn't have it through their employer, they might have a Roth or something that's not showing up on their W-2. And so I would inquire. And every client that didn't, I would just, encourage them. Well, I don't want you to blink in 10 years. You don't have anything. Right. One of my older clients, she's about to retire. And if it wasn't for me 10 years ago, convincing her to do it, she wouldn't have anything. I have one client that's 70 that have nothing. Like I would just give them so many practical examples. And so now a few clients I did follow-ups with, they're like, oh, I got this going on. I did this. I'm like, oh, there you go. Like, it's just amazing to just see that just with one little suggestion that it just changed the trajectory of them. And then now just by them starting with their retirement account, they ended up getting insurance through health insurance because they were not getting that. And then now he's trying to get a more higher paid position with his employer. So just that, it just pushed him and all my clients, honestly, to just thrive for better.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we don't know that there is a better until you get informed on how you can do that. And that is even possible, that it's realistic. So I love that you of course, sharing those stories and making it practical so people know that you can do these steps on a paycheck basis, on a regular basis, to be able to see that vision.
That's really how wealth is built. Mm-hmm. I don't know when we have gotten this notion that you get this big whim of money or this family inheritance. But before that family inheritance, where did it come from? It came from that initial sacrifice, from the paycheck to paycheck, or from I got $3,000, let me just sock $1,500 away. That discipline, it's the financial discipline that builds wealth. It's not really about the amount of money we make. It's about the discipline behind it. So it takes a person that has a 9-to-5 to just sock away $50 a week and don't look at it again. And then once you get comfortable with the 50, now do 100, but I don't believe in depriving yourself either. But if you know that men can do this so much better than women, I'm sorry, you guys can literally sacrifice everything and be like, oh, I got 50,000. They might go, okay, did you eat? No, I barely ate, and it's okay. Right, be proud. A woman like, okay, it was the worst thing ever. She done lost 100 pounds with the mass, but it's just that's how wealth is built. Yeah, we've been lied to.
Yeah, and that's so powerful to kind of know. I think there's this quote I hear all the time in business, but I feel like it translates to everything. Is they say, the secret to overnight success is it takes 10 or 15 years. And you don't hear that. You see that, especially in the social media world, where everything's quick and everything's fast and everything's instant, like your ramen. It doesn't really happen like that for success. So I love that. Again, obviously what you do, but I love the reason why you do and how that, helps to move those things in that needle forward. Do you feel like that's part of what I would call like your secret sauce, the thing you feel kind of sets you apart?
Yes, don't tell nobody.
Is it? Okay. It's just
yes, that's my secret sauce.
That's your secret sauce.
Yes, and then what's actually amazing is that my story, I've been through so much. I used to be a real estate agent. Okay. I used to be an insurance broker. I'm a mom, wife, I have so much experience. So, and then a businesswoman at that. So I tie in my whole life, my whole experience from every client, from everything, and pull it together. So even if they know my secret sauce, they don't have the experience. So yes, that is part of the secret sauce, but it also involves me putting my personal experience involved behind it.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a big sports guy, so all the time, you see the plays that people are executing and things that they're doing, and you can give you I can give you the playbook, but if you can't execute how I execute, then it's not your secret sauce. It's not yours. It's yours.
We're not the same.
Exactly. And I think there's power in that, and there's power in like understanding like each of our own secret sauces. Yes. And I think so many times I say if you run your own race, you can't lose. Because often we'll get in our lane and we'll look over and see what that person's doing. We'll try to emulate that. But really the power is in your lane and what you do. So I love that you lean into that.
It is so funny you say that before we even go to the next questions, because when I started to build my firm online, and it was just like every other account and influencer ended up getting pushed and got backed by other platforms. And it just seemed like they were just able to launch this and do this. Yeah. And I had to like really take a step back and say, well, they're not a wife. They're not a mom. They don't have this. They don't have this. Your lane is different. You have to focus on what God gave you. You will never be able to work as much as they do. And do you really want that as your lifestyle? Like in the end. So I think what sets me apart is that I realized that what people call crutches, I use that to my advantage. Because see, they can never talk about how to juggle it all because they never had to. They only had to juggle a business. You cannot compare with me trying to juggle being a wife, a mom, business, my employees, building systems, processes, tax season. You can't compare. Yeah. So me guiding someone else when compared to them would be a totally different strategy, background, and everything. So I learned to use everything that I've experienced in life, everything from my children, from every experience. And that makes us really who we are in whole. And make us actually the best in, well, you can't compare yourself to other people, but it makes you the best in your lane.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always about getting 1% better, being better than you were yesterday. If you can have that focus, I think it's incredibly powerful. Biblically, I just think about the parable of the talents and how you get the talents that you get. And they're not for you to bury. They're not for you to hide. They're for you to use. So yes. I love that you've had those experiences. You're pouring into those experiences to help out you, your family, but also how that helps out so many other people with the type of work that you do. So absolutely love that. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I want to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an app, it could be a book, or it could be a habit that you have. But what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
Well, I would say a little bit structured. I say me being structured. In that sense, like it's levels to being structured. When you are one man band, your structure may be having sound systems and working on one service every particular day. So like, for example, when I was building my firm, I offered payroll, book the same services, but I was a one man band. Right. So on Tuesdays, I would work on bookkeeping. Wednesdays, I know I had to process payroll. So payroll was Wednesdays. Right. Thursdays would be my days where I call Iris if I'm representing clients. So me being able to really structure my life, structure business, be structured and enjoy that discipline that it comes with. I think what's really my CEO hack, because without discipline, you can be swayed anyway, just like a leaf. And so like, for example, when I was building myself and going to attending university, I was a party monster at that time. I was always swayed and tempted to, oh, let's party. At that time, I showed my discipline and my structure at that time because I wouldn't party. I would go and, do my assignment, do my studies, and then the next day later, I would go. But that's the beauty of being structured and disciplined, because you're not missing out. You don't have that fear of missing out because you know that based on my lifestyle, based on my goals, I have to maintain this set of structure. And I've been willingly happy and enjoyed that process. And I think that's why a lot of businesses crack, because during that time of structure that we need to be most disciplined and most organized and we tend to not. Or our friends are partying, we want to be with them. No. You have to be structured. So, like, for example, I want to party. I want to go hang out and, dance a little bit. I like to dance. But you drink and you like, I can't wake up drunk on Monday. I have structure, a hangover. I have to, be energized and be ready for the week. So I think me being able to sit comfortably in that structure, and the reason why I'm saying discipline and all that, because that surrounds the structure. Without discipline, you can't maintain structure. Without focus, you can't maintain structure. So I think me being able to sit comfortably in my structure and it's what really makes one of my CEO hacks.
I love that CEO hack just because I often will say like the systems will set you free, and those processes, systems of discipline will set you free, because especially if you have multiple things or multiple hats or things that you're doing, like you talked about the services, even, just the titles that you have, being mom, and, all those things, you have to have that structure in order to do all the things and make sure those things don't fall. And I think that it's a lot of times we don't look at structure, especially like if you're starting a business. I'm my own boss and I could do what I want, when I want, how I want. But in reality, it's that structure that allows you to progress forward. It's the people that are doing those things, whether it be investing or things for the business on a daily basis, that leads to that success. So I think it's something that a lot of people don't realize, but I appreciate you sharing that and bringing that forward.
No, thank you.
What would you consider to be what I call a CEO nugget? This is a little bit more word of wisdom or piece of advice. I like to say it might be something you would tell your younger business self if you were to hop into a time machine, or potentially your favorite client.
I'm just going to always use a saying that my mom and my sister told me: everything that you do today reflects your tomorrow. So if you say you're CEO and you have to act like the CEO today, if you say you want to make $1 million tomorrow, then that means you have to make $1 million steps today. If you say that you want to be able to sleep in and, be financially free in 3 years, what you do today predicts that. So everything that you guys want to achieve in the future is determined on what you actually do right now while you're listening to us. So I think that's what it's one of those things that if it's now builds up our habits, routines, like everything involves today. Like, and that's where the saying of live in a moment. Because in business, you actually have to be in the moment. You're on a sales call. You have to be, hi, it's Folasade Suncrest. How are you? You can't be distracted with the kids and you're fumbling. So I think just being able to really be in that moment, and it just gives me that,
It's powerful because I was thinking of there's a quote that Muhammad Ali has, is he said that I was the greatest before I became the greatest. And he continued to repeat this stuff, and it also speaks to me like how powerful words are, and the things that if you want to be a millionaire, if you want to be a billionaire, you want to put away a lot of times you make the intention of doing it, you say you're going to do it, and then you end up doing it. But if you don't step into that, then it's hard to create those habits, create that system, that processes to do that. So I love like just the practicality of it, because I think again sometimes when we have these goals, these ambitions, these things that we want to accomplish, we don't think about taking that first step of even thinking and saying, and how powerful that ends up being.
And I did actually lose my whole little train of thought at first, but that ties into everything, because like for example, we say from a woman's perspective, we say we want to be wives. But then guess what? We get caught on the lifestyle and partying too much and, having too many bodies. But you say you want to be a wife. You don't just get married. You actually become it over time. And so everything we do, guys, today impacts what you will be or who you are tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a quote, and I always butcher it, but it says your minutes become your hours become your days become your weeks become your months. If we don't say present, as you said so well, and pay attention to that moment right there, we're not seeing where we're going on the journey. We're not seeing the steps that are taken into the things that we're building for good, or sometimes not so good.
Oh, yes, I love it.
Absolutely. So what would you consider to be your answer to my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO? Our goal is to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So Folasade, what does being a CEO mean to you?
I'm gonna just use a few words. The chief executive officer, the chief executor officer, the chief responsibility officer. I think the CEO is the person that sit there. First of all, it depends. If they're the founder, then there was a visionary. Okay. But if they're not the founder and they're just the CEO, but let's look at the person that's the founder and the CEO, like us, right? They're the visionary. they are the head. And this is where, like, when it comes down to marriage, they're the head. They are the bridge between what they dream and their outcome. And the buck stops and starts with you. And so I think the CEO is just a person that's willing to take full responsibility for the output, the input, and the results of their organization. And so, like with me, for example, even if my team make a mistake, I still take full responsibility, because that means I overlooked something. That means I didn't have a process in place. That means I didn't convey my message clearly, or I didn't have the steps or the document to walk you through. So that leads back to why I said chief responsibility officer. You have to take full responsibility. Most firms or businesses never get to the level that they want because the CEO didn't take responsibility for marketing. If you can't direct it, we still have an issue. So they're the ones that determines the input, the output, and the outcome of the organization.
Yeah, and that's so powerful. I love that piece about the full responsibility, because I think when we are not sure where we're going, like, why is the company here now? It's, you have one finger pointing towards the person, but there's three fingers pointing back at you. So you have to understand, like, how important and heavy that crown is that you wear, and what you can do with that crown, and sometimes not do. So it's so important, like going back to what we talked about, the decisions that you make on a daily basis and what brings you there.
Yes. I'm gonna be honest, without businesses, because I see it often, because I work directly with small business owners, and I'm finding a common thread of, first of all, not having the vision clear. That's why I said chief visionary. Right. We cannot build a culture or have team members or have people following us and allowing us to be in control over their actual financial destiny without a clear vision. And so that's why so many businesses start up and close in 2 years, because they didn't have a clear vision.
Right.
And so, like, a lot of people say, I want to do taxes, not realize the taxes is redundant. You have to know tax law. And then when you realize there's so much competition, your family not going to work with you. And it's just this. So then you realize, well, did I have the purpose behind it? What was the purpose? So in the end, you just have to take full responsibility for it and make sure that your vision is clear and you're willing to grow and adjust with the vision. Because remember, we didn't come up with it. Most people think we thought about it, but let's really be honest. We really think of God just flopping in our head, and then we start to conceptualize it afterwards.
Right.
So if we didn't create the initial vision, we have to be willing to adjust throughout the development and the procreation of our vision. And I think that's when we make mistakes. We get stuck. Oh, well, this is what I expected. Like, for example, with me, I was talking with my publicist. I was like, I'm letting go of my office space, because I had this big 1,500 square foot office when I first started my firm. But it was never my vision to have a big office and I'm away from my family and I'm just this. But I've always wanted to be very successful, be financially comfortable. Yeah, and so over time, I had to downsize my office in 2016. I went through that adjustment. So many people say, oh, you're broke, you're this. I'm like, no, I'm just downsizing. It's more economical. I'm an accountant. Do I need this office space? Right. So I took the fight. And so now where I am, I can't count, 7 years. Okay. Now 2023, I'm completely letting go of my office because it doesn't even fit the now vision. Right. And the purpose didn't change. We're still serving the same people, but God said, I don't want you to serve them in that capacity now. Yeah. And so what I'm finding is that when we fight those ever changes that God needs to make in our purpose, we tend to, as the CEO, hold on to that initial vision, forgetting that we wasn't the one that created the initial vision. Yeah. He planted it in us. Yeah. And so with a plant comes from a seed, and the seed, you water it over time. So I think as CEOs, we have to be also willing to revisit our vision and allow people to grow on us, and our team to grow on us, and our purpose to grow on us, to really adjust. And I think that's why we have, like, okay, for example, Kmart. That's exactly what happened. Yeah. They got stuck on what their vision and didn't allow God to adjust them, because as times change, it's inevitable. We have to adjust with time. Yeah. And so many businesses are, even the mom and pops, if you notice, it's not many moms and pops here. That's not because they didn't have the income or the clients or the big companies, dogged them out. No, they didn't adjust with the times and pivot and adjust their visions. Yeah.
It's so powerful. It's so often, I'll say, like, we get so attached to the how rather than the why. and the how can change and adjust. And you have to be able to let go of that and realize like why you're trying to do it. Whether, like you were talking about Blockbuster and all these companies like that didn't get attached to the why. What they're doing, they're trying to create entertainment. They are attached to it has to be this way. People are going to go to the brick and mortar and for that to happen. But I love how powerful that is, because once you can let go of the how, you start to realize that your why is really what's leading your purpose. You're called to create one of those things, and then you start to adjust and kind of transform your house. So absolutely appreciate that. And Folasade, truly appreciate that. Obviously appreciate your time even more. So what I want to do now is pass you the mic, so to speak. I wanted to hear a little bit more on just general tax information, depending on when people are listening to this, like what should they be kind of thinking about throughout the months. But I also know that you have a book as well too that I think has come out. So would love to hear about like how we can get a hold of you, get a copy of the book, and all awesome.
Yeah, so I'm just so excited because, like I said, God's timing it's we're not in control. So I started writing my book Audit Proof about maybe 2 to 3 years ago, and I'm always ahead of the wave. God always plants everything in my head like 2 years, 1 year, 8 months ahead, and I'm like, why? Why I can't go viral when I said it 2 years ago? But He has His plan. So I started writing Audit Proof about 2 years ago when President Biden came into office, because he originally had a goal to revamp the tax system in terms of acquiring more paper trails about all of our finances. He wanted to receive copies of 1099s from every merchant. He wanted access to our bank, transactions and everything. And I'm like, holy cow.
Right.
So the only way that they can get all of the information is, one, if they make it law, or two, they use the IRS audits and examinations as a way to figure out where all of this extra money, because he said it's trillions of dollars that we are withholding from the government that he is trying to get back.
Right.
And so at that point I said, oh my gosh, my people is going to be devoured if they figure out how to look at the color of our skin or our tax credits and how to start auditing us. And then at that point I started to develop Audit Proof. So I launched a class. The class, we sold out the class. It was amazing. And so at that time I'm writing a book. And that's when all of the laws started coming. Biden wants you to do 1099s. You have to send that in, minimum $600 requirement. Biden has done this. They've gave IRS $80 billion. And all of everything that I anticipated started happening.
Right.
So now fast forward to where we are right now. I launched Audit Proof to be the blueprint for individuals and business owners to be able to write off everything that they are legally able to write off on their taxes, but have the knowledge they need to be able to back it up. And see, what I found is that through the social media, it's a blessing, but it's a blessing in disguise, because you have so many influencers saying, you can write off your house, you can do this, but they're not telling us what we need to do to be able to write it off. Right. They're not telling us what paperwork we need, what form we need, and why you're able, or why you may not get a credit for it. They're not giving us the gist behind it all.
Right.
And so I finally finalized Audit Proof. And so it will be launched by the time this come out. So guys, check it out. But it's the blueprint, so you guys can be able to know how to write off your house, how what paperwork you need if you were to get audited, what to anticipate, and also giving you steps on how to make everything a tax deduction the right way. Because so many people is telling people, oh, well, if you hire a makeup artist, you could just write it off. No, because in all actuality, how are you going to connect the dots between a makeup artist? Because we have to really conceptualize this, guys. Put this in your mind. If we can just plop up on our phone today and go live stream, how are you going to convince the IRS that you have to have makeup to go live? That's where Audit Proof can come into place. Because you may need it, but do you know how to explain it? Do you know what paperwork you need? So that's the benefit of it. And then we need that because they're going after us to fund these wars and, whatever their hidden agenda is, they're going after us taxpayers for the tax dollars, and they're not stopping. They originally said they're going after people that make over $400,000. But as I said prior to the news publications, Secretary Yellen said, oh, yeah, it's true. We were auditing people that made less than $400,000. And so they had to revamp that. So I said, you know what? To protect you guys across the board, here's Audit Proof. If you do this, don't take ambiguous approaches. Try to maximize and work with a tax professional. You'll be good to go. take your write-offs and you'll be sound. So that's why I created audit proof, because the government's going after us and they're going after everybody, not just high income earners, not just small businesses. It's the collective. They want the money that's hidden in our tax returns. Um, so that answers why. And I think I'm excited truthfully because it's something that will never die out on us. Taxes will never go away because that's how this country's funded. But once you guys know how to audit proof, you will realize that you didn't do it right these past couple of years. And if you were to get audited, you don't have everything in place to back it up. So then you will probably be encouraged to go back and clean up your records and say, oh my gosh, I wasn't managing things. I wasn't doing bookkeeping. I wasn't doing this. So it's an eye opener to really realize that for you to be able to write off those things, you have to have certain paperwork and certain systems and procedures in place. And you need to maybe hire someone to do your bookkeeping if you have a lot going on. So it just gives them that reality that we were taught wrong. It's not as easy as it's perceived, but once you do it right, you got it. And you can write off everything. Well, not everything, but what you're allowed to write off.
Right. You have definitely a lot more awareness and knowledge over that. So we're definitely going to have the links and information in the show notes for that. For people that, check out Audit Proof. I know one of the things that you mentioned was that you make sure that you have the right people, the tax professional in place. They want to get a hold of you and find out, exactly how can we talk about and bring that audit proof and that, I guess, I don't want to say it's a strategy. I feel like it's even a lifestyle and just something that's truly foundational. How would they best be able to do that?
Well, first of all, if you want to work with me and you do end up purchasing the book, we are giving 10% across the board. So if anyone want to work with me, once you have your book copy, you get 10% off your services. So that's one way. But just follow me on Instagram, guys. And if you go to my link tree, on my Instagram, all of my links are there. And then I have a lot of free resources as well in my link tree. So like, for example, the IRS just did the ERC withdrawal process. The link is there, right there for them to withdraw their application. We have like free worksheets. So just go to my, follow me on Instagram and go to my link tree. It's a lot of resourceful information there.
Absolutely. And of course, we'll make it even easier by having that in the show notes as well, too. But Folasade, truly appreciate all the awesome work you're doing. Appreciate, the work that you do. I think it's so important to know that, knowledge is definitely power. Sometimes that knowledge is just knowing who to call, who to reach out to. So thank you for, of course, being that person and helping not just where we are presently and whenever you might be listening to this, but how impactful that is for further generations and future generations and how those quote unquote small things are actually big things that move the needle for us. Thank you so much for doing that.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Yes, you too.